I never thought inheriting a lake would make me the enemy of an entire neighborhood. But in Willow Creek Estates, peace is a fragile illusion, especially when the HOA decides beauty is law. When my Uncle Roy passed away last spring, he left me his property, a modest cabin on the edge of Lake Preston. It wasn't much by city standards. A quiet dock, a few acres of pine trees, and a lake that shimmered like glass in the morning mist. To me, it was paradise, but to the HOA, it was apparently a public disgrace. Hook, the call. The first sign of trouble came 3 weeks after I moved in. It was a crisp Saturday morning, and I was sitting on the dock with a mug of coffee when a silver Lexus SUV rolled up the gravel drive. Out stepped a woman in a beige suit jacket and oversized sunglasses, the kind that scream, "I'm in charge." She didn't bother introducing herself before she started talking. "Mr. Thompson," she said, scanning the lake like it was a crime scene. "I'm Linda Carson, president of the Willow Creek HOA. We need to talk about this." I followed her gaze across the water. A few cattails leaned near the shore, some algae floated on the surface, and a family of ducks drifted lazily by. "This?" I asked. "You mean the lake?" Her lips tightened. "Yes, it's an eyesore. Property values are dropping and residents have complained. We're requesting that you clean it up immediately." I almost laughed. "It's a lake, Linda, not a swimming pool." She didn't laugh back. The show-all war begins. Over the next few days, I noticed more cars slowing down near my property. People taking pictures, neighbors whispering at the end of my driveway. Then came the letters. 3 official notices from the HOA demanding I restore the aesthetic condition of the lake within 14 days. The letters mentioned fines, hefty ones. Thousands of dollars for failure to comply. I called Linda. "Look," I said, trying to stay calm. "You can't find me over natural water. The lake's been here for decades. It's not even part of your HOA jurisdiction," she replied smoothly. "The shoreline is visible from HOA property. That makes it a community issue." That's when I realized something ugly. Linda wasn't after beauty. She was after control. The cops show up on the 12th day. I got my answer to how far they'd go. It was a windy afternoon, and I was in the shed fixing a loose board when I heard tires crunching on the gravel again, followed by the crackle of a police radio. 2 county deputies stepped out of a cruiser. "Afternoon, sir," one of them said. "We got a call about an environmental hazard." "Are you the property owner?" I blinked. "An environmental what?" He nodded toward the lake. "Caller said there's a contaminated body of water on private land. Claims it's breeding mosquitoes and could spread disease." Behind the patrol car, I saw Linda standing with her arms crossed, lips pursed like she was waiting for applause. "Ma'am over there?" I asked. "She called you?" The officer gave a non-committal shrug, but I knew. I walked them down to the dock and pointed to the water. "Gentlemen, that's not contamination. That's nature. You can test it if you like." They did. They found nothing unusual. No chemicals, no dumping, just a natural ecosystem doing what it was meant to do. As they packed up, Linda marched closer. "This isn't over," she hissed. "That lake is lowering our neighborhood's standards." "Funny," I said. "I didn't know lakes had beauty contests." The retaliation, from that day, the harassment escalated. Someone left an anonymous note on my porch. "Clean your swamp or lose your cabin." My mailbox was filled with HOA pamphlets about community pride. They started fining me $500 per week, claiming visual blight. Even though the lake wasn't in HOA territory, they kept sending letters, each one angrier than the last. Then came the night I found someone on my property. It was close to midnight when I heard splashing near the dock. I grabbed my flashlight and crept outside. The beam caught movement. 2 silhouettes wearing waders, dumping something into the water. "Hey!" I shouted, storming toward them. They froze. One of them tripped and fell into the water before scrambling to shore and running off into the dark. When I shone the light on the ground, I saw what they'd left behind, a half-empty container of fertilizer pellets. They were trying to pollute the lake, to make their accusations come true. That's when I decided to fight back. And not just with words. The next morning, I made some calls to the County Water Authority, the Department of Natural Resources, and the local Environmental Commission. I told them everything: the harassment, the false reports, and the attempted contamination. To my surprise, they took it seriously. Within a week, 2 government trucks pulled up to my property. Officials took water samples, mapped the shoreline, and inspected the fertilizer residue I'd preserved in a sealed bag. As it turned out, Lake Preston wasn't just any lake, it was protected county land. It had been officially designated part of a regional watershed decades ago, meaning no private entity, not even an HOA, had any authority over it. And better yet, tampering with it was a criminal offense. The investigation. 2 weeks later, the County Water Authority held a public meeting at the Willow Creek Community Center. I showed up early, sitting quietly in the back while Linda strutted around, smiling confidently as she whispered to her board members. But when the meeting started, the smile didn't last long. A tall man in a blue blazer, Mr. Holloway, head of the County Water Authority, stepped to the podium. He cleared his throat. "Before we begin, I'd like to address the matter of Lake Preston." The room fell silent. "Recent complaints have been filed by the Willow Creek Homeowners Association," he continued. "Our investigation determined that these complaints were not only unfounded but maliciously motivated. Furthermore, unauthorized tampering of a protected lake has been discovered." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Linda shifted in her seat, trying to look composed. Mr. Holloway went on, "The property belongs to Mr. Daniel Thompson, who has fully cooperated with our investigation. He has done nothing wrong. The HOA, however, has violated environmental reporting laws by submitting false claims to law enforcement. You could hear a pin drop. Then he said the line I'll never forget. The county will be issuing citations and fines to those responsible for the false reports and contamination attempts. Legal action may follow." Linda's jaw dropped. One of the board members actually stood up and walked out. "And me?" I sat there, silent, watching justice unfold. The aftermath be. The end of that month, the HOA was slapped with a $25,000 fine for environmental interference and harassment. Linda Carson resigned, for personal reasons. When I next saw her, she was packing boxes into her SUV, eyes puffy from crying. I won't lie, it felt good. But I didn't gloat. I simply nodded and said, "Maybe next time don't pick a fight with nature." After she left, something amazing happened. The neighbors who'd once glared at me from across the street started waving. Some even apologized. One old man, Harold, brought over a fishing rod and said, "Heard there's good bass in that lake. Mind if I try my luck?" I told him sure. We spent the afternoon fishing, talking about how ridiculous it all was. The lake sparkled as the sun dipped behind the trees. Peaceful again at last. Epilogue. A few months later, I got an envelope in the mail from the County Water Authority. Inside was a certificate designating me as the official steward of Lake Preston. They thanked me for protecting a natural resource and preserving the local ecosystem. I framed it and hung it on the cabin wall. Every now and then, I still hear rumors that the HOA wants to rebrand their image after the scandal. But whenever I see their signs by the main road, I just smile, because that ugly lake they hated so much, it's now listed as a protected landmark on the county's environmental registry. Funny how things work out when you stand your ground. Moral of the story. If there's one thing I learned from all this, it's that entitlement and ignorance make a dangerous mix. The HOA wanted control so badly they forgot what really matters. Community, respect, and nature itself. You can't bully nature into being prettier. And you can't bully someone who's finally learned to fight back. So next time the HOA tries to call the cops over something too ugly, maybe they should take a look in the mirror first.